name is Milner. I'm a professor in leadership with EDHEC Business School, and I lead the leadership track. I have the pleasure of doing that. And my research also focuses in the area of leadership, empathy, and coaching. They're absolutely created. So yes, for some people it might be a bit easier than for others to learn certain skill sets, such as empathy, but absolutely leaders can learn it. So I did actually a 6-year-long study on the topic on how leaders learn coaching skills. And the great news is most people can learn it. The bad news is most people have to learn it. So there you see, the pilot study was actually published with Harvard Business Review. And so I think this gives us hope, but it also means leaders out there, you have to put some time and effort into it. And you need to engage in feedback, observations, and have an open mindset, but absolutely it's possible. Do you need to know yourself? I think it's nice if you know yourself. But yes, to a certain degree you do, because if you have a blind spot and you can't see that maybe, what you're bringing to the table as a leader is counterproductive, then of course it gets hard to work on something else. So you need to know yourself, I would say, to be even open to it, because if you just think you're doing a great job, maybe you're not, it gets really hard to improve. So for me, the most important skill set is actually really self-reflection and being open to adapting. So I always try to say to everyone, we are all in the same boat and we constantly need to learn, continuously need to learn. So it's nothing wrong about it. I think a lot of leaders fear to make a mistake. And if you look at yourself and you say, oh, I could improve this, you kind of like admitting, oh, I made a mistake before. So for me, it's very important that we turn around this whole notion of mistakes, errors, and so on, and turn it into trial, learning, adapt, and that it's a normal part and it's all good. Well, in my courses, you have to, if you want to learn leadership, you have to actually work a lot. So I think students are always quite surprised because they think, oh, I'm just going to sit back, I'm going to relax, I'm going to listen to something. And that's not how it works. It actually only works by trying it out, observing others, getting feedback, adapting and trying again. Of course, they get lots of new input from latest research and what we know works. But to me, leadership does not happen in a bubble. You actually have to apply it. So I always say to my students at the start of the course, I put actually a lot of pressure on myself, because after the 2, 3 or 4 days, they're going to walk out of this room and they're going to have certain skill sets, and that's on me. So I want to make sure that they really can apply it and not go and to their workplace and go like, oh yeah, I heard something about this theory and maybe I should try it. No, I want them to be able to do it. That's important. What students need to bring is this openness to fail and to redefine what failure means. Because as I said before, I think otherwise you can't learn. I do not give advice, because that's kind of like the whole purpose of what I'm teaching, which is called like leadership coaching and positive psychology, which means instead of leaders giving advice, I'm teaching them how to empower others. So this is why I also stay away from giving advice. Of course, I share, best of research, best of intakes, and so on. But I believe in the power of people solving their own issues and their own having their own ideas and bringing them to the table. So what I'm teaching them is how to try, how to observe, how to give feedback to themselves and other, and then finding their own solution and seeing, oh, okay, I see, I can do this differently. Oh, hey, I see, my peer could do this differently. And hey, I would love to know what my peer's saying, about the skill. I don't know. To be honest, there's even like the debate, what's the difference between leading and managing and so on. My philosophy is leadership is not about giving advice or micromanaging other people. Leadership is about empowering others to come up with their own best solutions. how you empower, how you enable others. And if you look at what's happening in the workplace right now, it's actually the opposite. So the biggest red flag in toxic workplaces is not this meeting could have been an email. That's in second spot. The first one is micromanaging. So it's a huge issue. And the thing is, people often think they are leading, but they're actually just micromanaging. And I think we still have the picture in our mind of the mean micromanager who stays there and yells at you from the end of the room. That's not the case. But micromanaging is also like giving advice and telling people how to do things. And it's not very motivating, neither for the leader nor for the person executing the job and actually being much more closely to what is needed. I work with all sorts and types of personality, so I don't think that makes a difference in that sense. Again, I think if you have a certain personality type and maybe you're more open or so, then it might be easier, to do certain things. But I'm a big believer everybody can learn, and so far everybody in my courses I can say has learned, and I've worked with thousands of leaders, so at the business school but also in organizations, and the question is just, are you willing to do it? And of course if you're not, then there's nothing you can do, but I actually believe that if somebody wants to, it's possible, absolutely. And we do need more good leaders in this world. So please, people, if you listen to this, we really do. Because think about it for yourself. Like, even if you have the greatest job in the sense of you have cool tasks, you love it, but if you have a bad manager, this whole thing is derailed. I've just been on the phone again with a friend, and cool job, cool environment, and the leader, sucks. So if you have a toxic manager, there's nothing. So I think leaders have also acknowledge that they are in an exposed position, but not because of their title or hierarchy, but because their emotions are, influencing and they're contagious, their emotions and their mindset. So please, better show up, in a good spot. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity that everybody has to be like, hey, yay, and my job and my life is a party. That's not what I'm saying. We need actually a lot of more acknowledgement of care and empathy and so on. But how wonderful is that as a leader, you can make a positive difference and impact to so many people's life. But please step up, people, and be the good leader and invest, in the skill set. Because I think that's another downfall. Most schools don't invest in this at all. And I think at EDHEC Business School, we put a big emphasis on learning these leadership skills, and so important, because leaders are not born, leaders are made, leaders are created, and you have to kind of create that leadership style for yourself. I mean, culture does play a role. I mean, national culture, but also organizational culture. Having said this, I think the leadership coaching concept, which I'm heavily translating or bringing to the students, it does work in different cultures. You have to adapt certain things, and I mean, I worked across the globe, and I worked with startups, I worked with large organizations, I worked with more administrative, public, private, finances, engineers, the whole lot. And yes, sometimes it's harder and sometimes easier, but you also have to be very careful as a leader not to make it an excuse. So to say, oh, my organizational culture is so, rigid, it wouldn't work. I agree and I acknowledge it's much harder, but I think leaders need to take responsible for their own, area that they're operating in, and then start by making a difference to your own team. Do this, and then often it also catches on. And I think good work and good leadership will be seen in the long term. You can, of course, I mean, people also say, and it's true, we have a very high number of psychopaths, the higher up you go, in organizations, but I think it's starting to change, and I think the good leaders will pay off. Because I mean, you see it also, like the younger generations going into the workplace, they want their leaders to care, they want their organizations to care. Empathy plays such a big role nowadays. I think the old control and command, it's gonna swap. It's gonna swap. hybrid work environments, virtual leadership, that does absolutely play a role. I mean, I had leaders coming to me who, said, oh, Julia, I struggled with empathy, before, like face to face, but now all my teams, it's like virtual. I mean, just have no chance. And it is true, as soon as there's a screen, there's a tendency that people just think, oh, emotions don't play a role now anymore. I can do whatever I want, but even more so they do. So I actually also focus part of my teachings on this virtual space and what happens. Or I work with leaders on, like looking at their emotions and what are they transferring and so on. And I think in the hybrid work environment, you also, let's be honest, what happens if you are in a team meeting virtually? What happens? You're in a meeting, and yes, we have videos maybe on, but what are most people doing? Something else. So I think leaders have to be then very aware of their voice, also transferring emotions via their voice, and being, very mindful that it's not only what you say, but it's about how you say it via your facial expressions, whether that's virtually or face to face, and also via your voice. I think it's very, very important, and just making people aware of that, because often what you actually find is if somebody is like very serious, for example, even in this virtual meetings, it's not because they're mean or grumpy, it's actually because they're concentrating. But and there we come back to the loop of observing, being open and acknowledging it, because yeah, I believe you, maybe the message you wanted to send out was a different one, but the question is, how was it received? We focus on the positive psychology of leadership. Well, I guess it's kind of like a mindset approach. So one example would be a growth versus a fixed mindset. Often we go in and we say, oh, well, certain things are like this. Or do I go in and say, well, this is an opportunity to learn? And I want the students to embrace this positive psychology approach, because it's a mindset. And once you have the mindset right, everything else, comes from it. So that's how we're approaching it. And I think it's so important. I mean, to go maybe back a step, psychology focused a long time on what's wrong with people, what's not working, and working with that. But positive psychology has more a look on, okay, well, how can we make people flourish? How can we make people thrive? And let's be honest, we spend so much time at work, and we talked before about the importance of a leader, not again because of their title, but because of their emotions, impacting so many things at work. So I think we have to start there. And so start with your own mindset, of course, and then, you can support others to create, a positive work culture where people actually enjoy being. And this is not to say that you have to love your job every day and be like, yoo-hoo, I can't wait. But why do we not make it all a bit nicer for everyone? I mean, I think that's important. Some would call it role play, but that's not what I do, because you always have to be yourself. We are not acting. This is not a course on acting. So we create scenarios that, of course, students are, happy to share, and then we work on these scenarios. So they actually have to really coach in real life another person, or they have to, use themselves and reflect through what we just covered, with a growth mindset or so on. So this course is really cool because, first of all, you get more insights into yourself, because I always say, well, how do you want to lead others if you don't do self-leadership? So we're working on that, and then we use real life scenarios. So it's not a play, it's actually a real conversation you have with another person. And when you make a difference to another person's life by them having an aha moment and solving something for themselves, it's great. I mean, a very simple example is it's the same reason why all diets fail. Because what are diets? Diets are people getting detailed instructions on what to do, aka micromanagement. And so what I'm doing is I'm turning it on its head, and people find their own solutions. So it's not the same as leaving them alone, absolutely not. You need to create, as a leader, an environment and remove roadblocks. But why am I telling you what to eat at what time of the day? How crazy is that? It would make much more sense if I ask you, well, what gives you joy, or what do you need, or what do you like, or what could you get rid of, or, and then it works for you and your circumstances. So We have 3 courses. So one is on the positive psychology and leadership coaching. One is on project management, and one actually is on innovation and leadership, which is in line with another track. So it's very cool because people get to work on AI and digital innovation from both views, the AI view or the innovation view and the leadership view. And then of course we also do a track trip. I mean, that's often to different locations, but there we visit companies and leaders share their own success stories or failure stories. And so we learn from that, and we use all type of, from startup to large company, different hierarchy levels, and it's always very cool and very fun. We need more good leaders in this world, and it starts with self-leadership, and this is what you learn on the track. And we go much deeper, but you also learn like practical skills on how to do it. So I wish I would have, even taken the school, to be honest, even at high school. But I think it doesn't really matter what age you are or what, where you are. I think leaders always have to learn. We always have to continuously, look at ourselves, because otherwise, how should growth and innovation happen? So absolutely. I mean, I think it's an investment. No matter which area you go, you will thrive on it. Absolutely. Well, I just love working, with the MBA students, and if I see change, it just makes me so happy. But I think what's really important is that people are no robots. So I don't want to, turn people into, oh, we all doing this. I think everybody is unique and brings their unique strength. And this is what I'm working with. We're just going to make sure that we open them up and we combine them with other skills so that your own strength and your own uniqueness can shine even more. And with that, you can empower others. And once you empower others, the magic happens. So.